Hello, everybody. Gosh, I'm sorry, I'm a mess here. Okay. That 12 o'clock sneaks right up on you. It's 12 noon. I'm Amy Hawker. This is All Day Live. We're with you for the next couple of hours. And wow, there's just a flurry of activity here in the newsroom because there is some breaking news that we're going to share with you from the Minnesota Vikings coming up in just a second. Also, a couple of more things that we're following today. Some news on the investigation into Alex Pretty's death. We're going to get to that here in a minute. Also, some new arrests now, including some journalists, including Don Lemon, after protests at a St. Paul church a couple of weeks back. You may remember that. Also, a conversation here in a little while with Minneapolis School Board Chair Colin Beachy on how the schools in the Minneapolis School District and everywhere really are kind of dealing with some of the after effects of some of the immigration efforts here on the ground, these operations. And there's a lot going on for students and for teachers. We'll talk about that. Plus a big shakeup. Speaking of professional teams here, the Twins front office. More news there. That's coming just weeks before spring training. Another really big shakeup there. And then we're going to check in with Lauren. She's at the St. Paul Winter Carnival. So let's kick this off with the breaking news. Literally just came down here a couple of minutes ago. The Vikings have fired general manager Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. Some pretty stunning news here. We know that the Vikings failed to make the playoffs this season despite having that winning record. It's a tough division, but Sam Darnold's success, when you look, in the backyard here, he's playing on a team that's going to the Super Bowl next week. So again, there's a lot of speculation about the whys, the draft process, free agency, things like that. A lot going into these decisions, but the Vikings choosing to stay with J.J. McCarthy while letting Darnold go. All of these things. Adolfo-Mensah was hired. It was 2022, and he was about to enter his fourth season with the team. So I do have a statement that I'll just read here in full. Amber, if that's okay, I'll pull this up and do you have it on a Chiron? Okay, great. So let me get to it here. Hang on one second. I'll get to it. All right. Following our annual end-of-season organizational meetings over the last several weeks, and after careful consideration, we have decided it is in the best interest of the team to move forward with new leadership of our football operations. These decisions are never easy. We are grateful for Kwesi's contributions and commitment to the organization over the past 4 years and wish him and his family the best in the future. Effective immediately, Executive Vice President of Football Operations, Rob Brzezinski, will lead our operations through the 2026 NFL Draft. Rob brings tremendous credibility and experience, understands our roster, and has the ability to build consensus and rely on the expertise of our personnel and coaches. After the draft, we intend to conduct a thorough search to identify our next general manager. Building a team that can contend for championships drives us every day. We look forward to bringing our fans the success they so deserve. So there you go. That news coming into our newsroom here just within about the last, 15, 20 minutes or so, that Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah is out as general manager of the Minnesota Vikings. Do we want to continue on here with this, Amber, with Jimmy, or do you want to? Okay, all right. We have Jim Rich here. We're gonna plug in with him here in just a second. But there's a lot going on today. We want to get through some of the big headlines here before we do some deeper dives. But one of the other pieces of developing news here today is coming from the Department of Justice. They have announced here within the last couple of hours that they will open a civil rights investigation into the death of Alex Pretty. A Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche confirming that news. So we know that following the killing of Renee Good, the Justice Department decided not to open a civil rights investigation. Blanche was asked about that and also whether he would release body cam footage and the names of the agents involved in the Alex Pretty shooting. Let's listen.
For transparency, would you commit to releasing the body cam video from federal officers that was involved in that shooting and their names at a point when the investigation can allow that? Will you make that public? And I did not hear clarity on whether Renee Good's case is also in the civil rights realm.
I'm not committing to anything with respect to that investigation. That would be completely unfair to the investigation itself for me to stand here and commit to something for any reason. It depends. It depends on what happens with the investigation, and that's a decision that was made by the folks that are working the investigation. As it relates to Ms. Good, I don't, like I said before, there's investigations that happen all the time with respect to shootings like what happened last Saturday, and cases are handled differently by this department depending on the circumstances.
All right, so that is one of the many stories that we're continuing to follow today. There's a lot going on here just in these sort of press conferences and some of the announcements that are happening. Also a lot happening on the ground as well. Need to get that going. All right. So we also learned today that the FBI will lead the federal probe into Alex Pretty's death. So Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem telling Fox News last night about this shift in who will handle the investigation. Earlier this week, her department said it would be Homeland Security investigators looking into Pretty's death. Now it's shifting over to the FBI. Okay, let's do this. Let's talk weather here briefly before we get on with some of these other headlines. We keep hearing it's going to warm up. Technically it is, I guess, but still not going to feel a whole lot warmer, at least not today. Really important for people to note if they're going to be out and about today. We know there's some activities in downtown Minneapolis. So meteorologist Cody Matz is here to tell us a little bit about what we need to know this afternoon and then this warm up.
Well, the warm up is coming. It's going to take a little while. I know we've been looking forward to this essentially all week long and until it showed up, basically since it showed up on the end of the 7-day forecast. So got a little ways to go till we get there. It was cold again this morning. Today is very much rinse and repeat of the last couple of days with a little bit more of a breeze. So it may actually feel colder at times than it has the last couple of days. We'll have the sunshine, sunglasses necessary, 7 degrees right now, winds out of the north, about 10 miles an hour. So wind chills will likely be around or below 0 through the afternoon. Notice temperatures across the metro, a lot of single digits, although popping a 10 now in Prior Lake. We did top out 11 the last couple of days. We'll be in that ballpark this afternoon once again in the metro, back above 0 and a lot of spots for actual air temperature at this point. But like I mentioned, especially in open areas, you get in amongst some of the downtown buildings, you get kind of that wind prone effect, and so you get a sneeze of a breeze and it does feel quite chilly. So wind chill still well below 0. Will probably hang with that below 0 sort of feel through this afternoon. At least we've got the sunshine, just a couple clouds across our eastern zones. It's phenomenally quiet in the upper Midwest for the time being, and that will set the stage for a warm up through the course of the weekend. Now tomorrow morning we are going to start off cold. It's the last of our deep freeze, so to speak, with sub-zero temperatures to start the day, and then we're going to warm up 6, 7, 8 degrees. We'll go for upper teens tomorrow afternoon with some sunshine, clouds increase tomorrow evening, and that will lead to some light snow opportunities as we get into Sunday, second half of your weekend. An inch, maybe 2 of light fluff will be possible Sunday morning into the middle part of the day. We all get to wrap that up and brush everything off before that Monday morning commute. But notice temperatures on Sunday back to the upper 20s. More 20s and even some 30s in that 7-day forecast. Of course, you can get the latest on that anytime you want. Just download that Fox 9 weather app, fox9.com. We've got it in all the social places. Also talk more about that coming up later in this show as well.
All right. Thanks, Cody. Really appreciate it. We'll talk to you in just a little bit. All right. Getting back to what's topping our headlines here in the noon hour is the big news out of the Minnesota Vikings football organization today. Our Jim Rich is here, sports director, to talk a little bit about what's been transpiring here. We just learned about this literally within the last 30 minutes, so I know you haven't had time to, gather much information, but your initial reaction here to Kwesi Adofo-Mensah.
The texts are all shocking. They're all like, really? Now? It's an interesting point. Was it Sam Darnold winning last Sunday, getting the Super Bowl, and the Wilfs are like, wait a minute, wasn't that guy just here? Didn't we just let him go? He was the first quarterback in NFL history to win 14 games with a team and then become a free agent. That's never happened before. You could go back and look at the draft history of what Kwesi has done. Things didn't go well. The selection of J.J. McCarthy, there were other quarterbacks there. This is the one they settled on. But you also have to look at who's advising him. And Kevin O'Connell is also part of that.
Sure.
Now, is he on thin ice because of this and because of how this played out? Because they didn't back up J.J. McCarthy. That's what really we were all belly aching about, right? You take a rookie quarterback and it's a rookie quarterback. You don't know what you're going to get. But you had Aaron Rodgers begging to come here. You had Daniel Jones in the building. You let those guys say, no, we're good. And you started with Sam Howell. as your backup quarterback. He didn't even make it out of training camp. Thankfully, that Carson Wentz was sitting on a pickup on the side of the road and they just happened to pick him up, or it really would have been a crazy season for the Vikings. And then, oh, by the way, Derek Falvey got fired today too.
I know.
The head of the Twins, 2 weeks before training camp or spring training.
Yeah.
So
can you talk about
you have Black Mondays in the NFL, right? When all the coaches get fired. This is a Minnesota version of Fired Friday.
Really quickly, the first thing you said to me was the timing. Why now? So, you know, we have all the speculation of the different reasons why, probably a combination of all of that. But talk about the timing here, you know, with the getting through the draft and all of this. What does that set us up for?
Right, and Kwesi is at the Senior Bowl right now. So I'm not sure how this transpired at this moment, why this was the tipping point, or what they were looking at. But if he's gone, there's going to be more people that'll be shifted around in that organization because the drafting under Kwesi has not been good. And, you know, you can say, yes, he's the figure that makes the final decision, but you have all these henchmen that are giving you information saying, this is the guy we want. And that hasn't hit for the Vikings a lot. So there's going to be a lot of changes, I think, in the scouting department as well. Ever since Scott Studwell, Paul Wiggins moved on, their drafting hasn't been as good as it has been in the past.
Okay, but you think KOC is probably fine?
Who knows? Who knows today? Okay. This is crazy, but it just shows you, you know, that this team needs and expects more. The Wilfs expects more. The Twins with Tom Pohlad now calling the shots. He's going to run the business side. Jeremy Soule is going to run the baseball side for now. Both these franchises are looking at themselves in the mirror and saying, we don't like what we see. And ownership in both situations are taking control. So, you know, they just extended Kwesi. So this is what's so crazy, right? If you thought you were going to do something, they just extended him going into this season. So now all of a sudden, you're paying that contract, and then you go and pay a new guy.
Or gal.
Or gal.
All right. Thanks, Jimmy. Yeah, we'll be talking a lot about this in the next couple of hours. Appreciate you jumping in here literally on your way to somewhere else.
Yeah, go for hockey tonight on Fox 9. 7 o'clock, they take on the Badgers. 6:30 pregame.
Wild had a good win last night, so that's
great. Nobody got fired there.
Or
the Wolves. They're all attack right now.
Great game. All right, Jimmy, thank you. We'll keep tabs on it. Thanks.
You bet.
Appreciate it. All right, let's get back to some of our headlines now. We want to take you outside. It's a sit-in and rally at Target Dinkytown right now. Started around 11:30. About 100 workers, students there. One of the organizers and speakers is a neighbor, apparently, of Alex Preddy. A larger anti-ICE protest rally involving more Target sit-ins is planned for tomorrow. And these folks expected to rally at more than a dozen Twin Cities Target stores, including that Richfield location where 2 workers were detained earlier this month. Target still has not issued any sort of a public statement on the ICE operations in Minnesota. Brian Cornell, the CEO, though, did sign an open letter from dozens of Minnesota business leaders, many of whom had previously remained silent, calling for a de-escalation between local, state, and federal officials. But we know that at least one organization, and I believe it's this one, has been calling on a firmer stance against ICE from Target Corp. All right, and that's what's going on there. Continuing on now to some of our other developing news here this morning, late this morning into this afternoon. A local independent journalist, Georgia Ford, and former CNN anchor Don Lemon in custody this morning. And this is in connection with that anti-ICE protest. It was at a St. Paul church just a couple of weeks ago. Demonstrators, you may remember seeing that video, went inside the church during a service while people were worshiping. They say that they were protesting a pastor who they believe works in the St. Paul Immigration Enforcement Office as well. Now, City's Church has denounced that protest. They called out journalists who covered it, saying there isn't a press pass for disrupting people trying to worship. A federal magistrate judge previously rejected the Justice Department's initial attempt to bring charges against Lemon and Fort. But despite those rulings, now we know that Lemon was taken into custody at the direction of Attorney General Pam Bondi. So she posted this on X this morning. At my direction, early this morning, federal agents arrested Don Lemon, Traherne Jean Cruz, Georgia Ford, and Jamil Lydell Lundy in connection with the coordinated attack on City's Church in St. Paul. Officials didn't immediately disclose what sort of legal authority was used or what charges, if any, were being pursued. Don Lemon's attorney, did put out a statement as well on Facebook saying Don has been a journalist for 30 years. His constitutionally protected work in Minneapolis was no different than what he has always done. The First Amendment exists to protect journalists whose role it is to shine light on the truth and hold those in power accountable. And there's more to that statement if you want to check it out on Facebook. So again, in addition to former CNN anchor Don Lemon, also talking about a Minnesota-based independent journalist, Georgia Ford, also arrested. So she actually went live on Facebook just before she was taken into custody. We want to show you part of that.
You guys, I wanted to alert the public that agents are at my door right now. They're saying that they were able to go before a grand jury sometime, I guess, in the last 24 hours. And that they have a warrant for my arrest. I've talked to my attorney and I'm being advised to go with them, I guess, down to Whipple. And my children are here. They're impacted by this. This is all stemming from the fact that I filmed a protest as a member of the media. We are supposed to have our constitutional right of the freedom to film, to be a member of the press. I don't feel like I have my First Amendment right as a member of the press because now federal agents are at my door arresting me for filming the church protest a few weeks ago.
And Georgia Ford is scheduled to be in court today, 1:30 at the courthouse in Minneapolis. And there is a planned Free Georgia rally at 1 p.m. outside the federal courthouse in Minneapolis. So that's what's happening with the arrests of those two journalists and others. So also, I believe we want to play a part of what happened at a press conference that was held by some of Georgia Ford supporters, family members as well, and other leaders in journalism organizations. So let's take a listen to that.
Georgia Ford is my mom, and we are here to call for her immediate release. My mom has been a documenter and a member of the press for as long as I can remember being alive, for 17 years. My mom is being arrested for documenting what happened at City Church, and this is wrong. This goes against her First Amendment right as a journalist, and it's being challenged today. She is not a protester. She is not an activist. She is a mom working to provide for her children through the only way she knows how. Documenting and sharing stories of the community and truth of what's happening here every day in our state. This moment of history just doesn't affect me. It also affects my little sisters who had to wake up and comprehend at the ages of 7 and 8 why their mom had to be arrested today. My 7 and 8-year-old sister woke up today without a mom. My father woke up today without his wife. I'm demanding that my mom gets released. The separation of families will never be right. Thank you.
We are under attack. We are being targeted, and it's not just individuals. Our democracy is under attack. Our Constitution is under attack. This is not a joke. This is not a drill. And I want for everybody that's watching across the nation to know that you are next. Minnesota is holding the line, and we can't hold it by ourselves. This is not a black people or white people or a religion or age or any of these things. We are fighting for human rights. We are fighting for our humanity and our democracy, and nobody fought harder for that than Georgia. She is the ultimate professional. She is so intentional, but we saw after Alex was killed on Saturday, journalists were being tear gassed. King Demetrius, who's going to speak to you, has a boot on right now. They are not paying attention to passes, badges, and they're not paying attention to our democracy and our Constitution. And I want to tell y'all, we have to stand for something or fall for anything.
Now, in addition to these arrests and some of the other things that have been developing this morning, late this morning into this afternoon, we know that people are also hitting the streets again today in response to Operation Metro Surge. Organizers telling us they are expecting thousands of people to come out again for a march and a rally to protest the immigration crackdown and support immigrant communities. They say they have about 500 businesses who have signed on to either close or show solidarity in other ways. Now, if you remember last Friday, there were thousands of people, hundreds of businesses who came together for that peaceful march and rally that ended at Target Center. So part of this movement is calling for a national day of action. We know that last week was primarily here in the Twin Cities. Another general strike is what they're asking for. And they're urging people now across the country to not go to work, school, or shop. And the goal here, they say, is to create an economic blackout in protest of the immigration operations. We are seeing some businesses from other parts of the country saying that they'll be shutting down today as well. All right, a lot more to come here on All Day Live. We're really just scratching the surface of some of the things that are happening today, so we hope you'll stick with us. We'll be right back with much more headlines when we come back, and a few more interviews that I know you want to stick around for as well. Thanks for being here today. We appreciate it. Stay warm. It looks like it's nicer out, but the wind is making it feel much more chilly. We'll check on the weather as well. And welcome back to All Day Live. One of the live events that we are continuing to cover this hour is happening in Minneapolis. A sit-in and rally at a Target in Dinkytown right now. You're looking at a live coverage of that rally / protest, peaceful protest. It started around 11:30. Again, Dinkytown Target. Got about 100 workers, according to organizers, students there as well. And one of the organizers and speakers is apparently a neighbor of Alex Preddy. There is also a larger anti-ICE protest involving more Target sit-ins. It's planned for tomorrow, and protesters are expected to rally at more than about a dozen Twin Cities Target stores tomorrow, including that Richfield location where we had the 2 workers we reported on that were detained earlier this month. So we'll continue to follow the rally protest and the scheduled sit-ins for Target stores tomorrow as well. All right, continuing on with some of our other headlines here, just recapping in case you're joining us, the general manager for the Minnesota Vikings, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, has been let go. He is no longer with the team, and so we are working to gather some more information on that, and we'll bring that to you, as well as some of the other things that are going on later this afternoon in Minneapolis. One other headline here that we wanted to tell you about is some disturbing charges in St. Joseph. So we have a 19-year-old man, according to a criminal complaint, who is accused of raping a woman early Tuesday morning. And according to those court documents, the victim said she was sleeping and woke up to the suspect attacking her. She told police that when he eventually left, she reported the assault to another woman who called police. And then when officers got there, they did see scratches on the victim's body, and they were able to track down the suspect and arrest him, and he did later admit to having sex with the woman. Our Simone Woolridge is looking into some of the other details that we've received, some tips that we've received about this, just to see what we can verify, but we are following up on that, and we'll bring you much more here as it becomes available. Also, another really big twist here in the Mangione case. So federal prosecutors now will not be able to seek the death penalty against Luigi Mangione, who is the man accused of killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. A judge dismissed a federal murder charge against Luigi Mangione, finding it technically flawed, but did leave in place the stalking charges. The stalking charges carry a maximum of life in prison. Mangione pleaded not guilty to the federal and state murder charges. Now, the state charges, where he was arrested in Pennsylvania, also carry the possibility of life in prison. So he is due back in court, may be there right now. It was this morning when he was supposed to be back. And then his federal case is scheduled to start in September. No date yet for that state case, but we'll continue to keep an eye on some of this. But the big news is that a judge has said that they are not going to be able to pursue a federal murder charge against Luigi Mangione, technically flawed. So they will not be able to, prosecutors will not be able to seek the death penalty in that case. Okay. Our Jim Rich alluded to this one a little bit earlier when we were talking to him about Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah being out with the Minnesota Vikings. Also, almost within the same hour or two stretch here this morning, we learned that the Minnesota Twins, about 2 weeks before pitchers and catchers report to spring training, have announced that Derek Falvey, the team's president of baseball operations, is out. The two sides have apparently agreed mutually to part ways. Falvey says that this decision came after ownership transitioned over the past few weeks. Remember, the team made that switch at the very, very top with Tom Pohlad replacing Joe Pohlad. And then the club brought in some minority owners as well. General Manager Jeremy Soule will take over on this interim basis. Really tough time for the Twins. Obviously, they traded away a lot of key players at the last trade deadline, and then really haven't made significant signings during the offseason. So, also, as I mentioned off the top, the timing here, players are going to be reporting soon to spring training, February 12th. So there's a lot going on the professional football scene and professional baseball scene here in Minnesota. We'll stay on top of it and continue to update you here throughout the course of the next couple of hours. All right. Let's talk about the Winter Carnival, because it is coming to a close. All good things have to end, right? The coolest celebration on earth, still going, but you don't have a whole lot of time left. And this is the 140th anniversary, so our Lauren Andrego decided to head out to Rice Park today. The ice carving competition, probably one of the most popular parts of this, Lauren, and where everybody's just going, okay, let's see, and who won, and show us.
It is amazing. And, you know, if you remember, Amy, the last couple of winters, we dealt with some conditions that weren't great for ice carvings. A lot of melting happening. And I'll tell you what, that is not happening here today in Rice Park. I'll show you some of the results here behind me. There's a lot of people out here checking it out. Oh, my goodness, my ice toner gloves just not doing what they need to today. There we go. So here's a look at some of the sculptures. This is the grand prize for the multi-person, multi-ice block ice carving competition. 3 people did this in 48 hours with 10 ice blocks, a bunch of awesome tools. And what you can't tell here in the daytime is that they all have LED lights in them too. So when you come here tonight or for this weekend in Rice Park, you'll see them glowing multicolored. So this one is the second place Alice in Wonderland themed ice sculpture. Like, imagine doing something this good, this dynamic, and you don't even win because there's so much competition out here. Another T-Rex here right next door. There's some smaller sculptures too. And tonight's going to be a really awesome night in Rice Park. As you probably remember from last week, temperatures were about 30 degrees colder than they are right now, with wind chills in the negative 30s and negative 40s. So because of that, a lot of our festivities got pushed back to this weekend. So happening tonight in Rice Park, you'll see food trucks as we talk about, the efforts to support local this weekend and into next month. Lots of local businesses will be here selling food, including Egg Roll Queen, which is my favorite. Right over in the Landmark Center, you'll be able to see the Klondike Kates, the Vulcans, the Royal Family. The Bounce team will be there. Flashback to my time with the Bounce team during St. Patrick's Day last year, so you can get a chance to hang out with them. And then over here at the St. Paul Hotel, a Garth Brooks tribute band. I checked it out. Tickets are $23 each, and they are still available. Tomorrow night, the Vulcan Victory Parade. I believe we have a graphic of the parade route, which starts tomorrow at 5:15 on West 7th Street and Smith Avenue. That's right near DeGidio's and Bad Weather Brewing. You can find a spot anywhere along 7th Street. It heads down into downtown, past Grand Casino Arena, into Rice Park. That's where the Vulcan Victory Party happens. There's going to be a family-friendly dance party, all sorts of awesome photo opportunities, more ice sculptures around here, and then a fireworks show happening tomorrow night to really bring this Winter Carnival to a conclusion. Also at the State Fairgrounds, the Ice Castle is still going on through the weekend. There's a snow sculpture competition as well. So if you're really into the sculptures, you can go see more of them over there. But Amy, they're not taking these down. It's weather dependent. And if you take a brief look at the forecast, doesn't look like any melting is going to be going on for the next couple of weeks. So if you can't make it down this weekend and you still want to come check it out, they will be here until these sculptures all melt. But they're spectacular. There's already people here today enjoying the sunny skies and weather that might not be optimal, but a lot better than 7 days ago.
Oh, for sure. Just dress for it. All right. Thanks, Lauren. Talk to you later. And All Day Live will continue right after this quick break.
Fox Local.
And welcome back to All Day Live. I'm Amy Hockert. We're glad you're with us here on this Friday. One of the ways immigration operations have impacted the community is in our schools. We know that some districts have moved to an e-learning option based on the rising number of students not coming to class. Minneapolis is one of those districts. Joining us now, Colin Beachy, School Board Chair for Minneapolis Public Schools. Thanks for being with us.
Yes, of course. Good to see you again, Amy.
Yeah, good to see you. So how big is this impact? Any idea about percentages of students that have moved to virtual learning in the last month?
Yeah, what I can listen, I haven't been updated on the latest numbers, but when this started on the first Monday that we had the online learning option, I think I had heard around 6,500 students was the number that we had started with.
Okay, and you're part of a group that's giving, is it the weekly updates to the community? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, and so this was started by Councilwoman Chowdhury. And so we just felt like this was a good time for everybody to know that our government officials are working together, and we're speaking with each other, and we're making sure that we're using the correct resources with everyone. And that communication is really super important for people. And so we felt it was important for the community to know and to see and to understand that their local and state officials are working together, and their county officials are working together. And so every week you're seeing a lot of the same faces, but we're trying to make sure that we're spreading this out so everybody is hearing from everyone, as many people who are in districts who are being affected by all of this.
How about from the teacher's perspective? A lot of questions here, but how are they maintaining any sort of normalcy within their classrooms right now? We'll start there.
Yeah, look, it's going to look different at every school where we're at. It just depends on the number of students who are out. Unfortunately, as I had said in an earlier interview, we've been through this before with the COVID, and so I think our teachers are prepared for this and how to make this work. But I know that on that Friday before we went to distance learning, the principal spent a lot of time talking to their staffs about trying to make sure that we do whatever we can to try and keep things as normal as possible for our students. And I'm confident that that's going on in our classrooms, despite the level of anxiety and fear that many of our students are bringing every day.
And COVID obviously brought that up, really taught us that e-learning isn't for everyone as far as learning style, and we've now been able to see some of the discrepancies in learning, and now we're looking at primarily communities of color who are affected by this. I know it's down the road, but are these things that you're thinking about, and how to if it's widening the education gap there, things that you might be able to do to help?
Yeah, I mean, all of these things are a consideration, and it's not only that, it's about the food service delivery that we have to do that has an impact on that budget that we have as well. So, yeah, I mean, that is a big concern, but I guess maybe just outside of the immediate thing that's going on here, just in terms of where we are moving the district based on the board priorities that we have sent to the superintendent. Those are things that we're already kind of be looking into just sort of in general. Mm-hmm. And I think, understand that this is going to perhaps exacerbate that in some situations. But, one thing, if I could, I think that one of the biggest concerns that I have is the long-term effects that this is going to have. And so we've been spending a lot of time trying to figure out how are we dealing with our students mentally. And, I can say that the district right now, I know, is in talks with one of the larger hospitals here in the city to kind of be creating a long-term partnership for how we're going to deal with some of these long-lasting effects that are going to be affecting all of our students.
Do you anticipate, going to the legislature? I don't know if that's really under your purview, but to ask for more money for resources. We know that mental health after COVID, kind of going back to that, was really a struggle, and not enough people to help out within the schools. I mean, I think that's great news that you're making some progress there. Will there be other avenues that you'll be trying to explore as well to try to bring more support in other ways?
Yeah, I mean, and first of all, I cannot say enough about the parents and the people. No. People have stepped up for our kids, and we're at a point where we're actually turning people away because of we have too many people who want to help, and so yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot your question.
No, it's okay. It's okay. If I could ask you along those lines, just about my conversations with people, it's my understanding, teachers are often, because there's little to no trust in a lot of the communities that we're talking about. Teachers are sometimes kind of a safe place for these families, and
Yeah.
I'm wondering, what are teachers able to do? What are they doing, and what support do they need to do what they need to do?
Well, we have our counseling and our social workers are really kind of putting in their own sort of programming that's going to look different in each school. And again, long term, we're looking at how that is going to look. And for our teachers, this is a time when this is the tough part about what we have to do here. I mean, we have our own fears, we have our own concerns, but you mentioned the word earlier, normalcy, and that's the most important thing for our students. And this is some of those times where we've got to show up with that brave face, even if we're not feeling it. And our teachers are doing that, and they're going to continue to do that. But then I think that just really what goes on is that the principals are having lots of conversations with their staffs, and then the principals are having their conversations with the district, and then we're just trying to figure out what it is that everyone needs, and we're trying to provide whatever supports that we can. And again, with the community partners, I think if there's something that we as a district cannot provide, there are places that we can start reaching out to see if we can be partnering with someone in the community to help.
As far as the school board goes, is there anything else that we should know about? I'm curious about the e-learning option. It's my understanding it was slated to end February 12th. Is that right? Do you think it will continue, or what do you think?
I don't know. I can't say yet. I mean, we have to go by the facts on the ground. Look, we need our kids in school. I mean, I think we learned that from the pandemic, as you had said before too. And something I'd like to just sort of say too. I agree with my colleague Director Emmerich that some of this narrative needs to change here about families and students being afraid to come to school. I just don't think we should be putting this on them. They weren't afraid to come to school a couple months ago. So the fact of the matter is that the conditions on the ground have made it unsafe for them to come to school. And so we just have to keep monitoring those conditions. I'm somewhat hopeful over the last couple of days that it sounds like some of the temperature in terms of the language is being brought down a little bit. But we're still seeing some of the same tactics. So we're just gonna have to play it by ear, and I think it's too early right now, to be honest, to ask that. My preference would be to have everyone back in school, but we just really have to see what our families are needing.
All right. Colin Beachy is the school board chair for Minneapolis Public Schools. We really appreciate you taking some time out today to update us on everything that's been going on, and we'll hope to check back in with you soon.
Yeah, thank you, and stay safe, everyone. And this is a tough time, but I got to tell you that parade, that march, that's the most Minnesota thing ever. On the coldest day, everyone's standing up for their community, everyone's standing up for their neighbors, and that's what we're about in Minneapolis. That's what we're about in Minnesota. And we're going to get through this, and we're just going to be so much stronger after this. So hang in there, everyone.
Thanks, Colin. Appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon. All right. More on All Day Live to come. We are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to check in with our Paul Bloom. He is at federal court. We know that there have been a couple of journalists and others arrested today, including Don Lemon and local independent journalist Georgia Fort. He'll bring us the very latest when All Day Live continues. And welcome back to All Day Live. So much going on today. A lot of developing news here in the last hour or so. We're going to go through some of those other headlines for you. Local independent journalist Georgia Ford and former CNN anchor Don Lemon in custody now in connection with an anti-ICE protest at a St. Paul church a couple of weeks ago. You may remember seeing the video of demonstrators going inside during a church service. We know, based on what the attorney for Don Lemon says, that he was picked up in Los Angeles this morning while he's out there covering the Grammy Awards, I believe. And then Georgia Ford, as I mentioned, is a local journalist. So we wanted to bring on our Paul Bloom because it sounds like she's expected in federal court here in Minneapolis soon. Paul, what do we know?
Yeah, that's where I am, Amy, in the car right outside the U.S. District Courthouse in downtown Minneapolis at 11 o'clock this morning. I would call it a protest, a rally. Remember, this is close to home. Georgia Fort might not work for a corporate name, sort of traditional mainstream media outlet, but she absolutely is an independent journalist within the community of reporters here. She owns her own business. She's near and dear to the African-American community. She posted on Facebook this morning a video live feed of basically agents arriving at her home to place her under arrest to face federal charges in connection to that protest. She and Don Lemon were inside the church documenting protesters going into that small St. Paul church. There was an anti-ICE protest in there. The understanding from organizers was that the top ICE official in the local St. Paul office was an associate pastor in there. That's what made that church in particular a target, an anti-ICE protest. And then this morning at 11 a.m., like I was saying, local community journalists, supporters, her own family, Amy, showed up at Minneapolis City Hall and basically spent about an hour defending Georgia Fort, what she means to the community, what journalism means to the community, what her presence means to the African-American community. And now, like you mentioned, in about 45 minutes, she will make her first court appearance in federal court here at the U.S. District Courthouse. Our understanding is she is facing a couple of charges. And I think what's really interesting about this case, and I've been following it because when Nikema Levy-Armstrong, community activists, and Chantel Allen and a third gentleman were charged with organizing the protest, prosecutors made clear in their court filings they wanted arrest warrants at that time for Georgia Fort, for Don Lemon, for several other people in the that were in the church that day. And the local magistrate judge declined to sign an arrest warrant for them at that point. The prosecution, the United States government, was so adamant about getting an arrest warrant for these people. They appealed immediately to the 8th District Circuit Court of Appeals, who turned down that appeal. They said there were other avenues to pursue charges against them, even without a warrant signed by a federal district court magistrate. The other avenue, of course, is an indictment. So you bring in citizens from a grand jury, you sit them down, you need 12 votes in a panel that can range from 16 to 23. They sign off on these charges. That is our understanding what has happened, and now they are facing, well, we know specifically Georgia Fort, and that her attorney is commenting to the media about a couple of charges CC's on the docket. The case has not yet been unsealed against them, so I don't know the exact charges Don Lemon would face, but we should see those shortly in Georgia Fort's case as soon as she makes her appearance. The typical procedure is to then unseal those charges.
It'll be interesting to see how this plays out, definitely. I mean, clearly, we saw the tweet from Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, who said that it was her directive to have these people arrested today. And then the others, really quickly, what happened with Nikema Levy-Armstrong and the others? Did they were released, and what happened?
Yeah, their case plays out. What was interesting about that one, I sat in for the third gentleman. Forgive me, his name escapes me at the minute. Obviously, Chantel Allen and Nikema are much more closer to our community. The third gentleman was someone who's from out of state, who's a known activist who's come to town. But all three of them Some were subsequently released basically on their own recognizance. What was interesting, I will point out, is the prosecution, the U.S. Attorney's Office, Department of Justice, did try to get them held in custody for the duration of their case, arguing that they are dangerous, that they can go, copycat, do this again. They can go back into churches. They argued for those three to be held on these charges that they deem a violent offense, going into that church, protesting, yelling, screaming, perhaps engaging with people inside the church. The judges did not see it that way and allowed those three to go home as their case proceeds, and it will go. These cases will move along. We'll see what judges do with it. Of course, defense attorneys are going to attempt to get these cases dismissed, and I certainly think, just understanding my knowledge and having witnessed the third hearing in this case, I would imagine at the end of the day, or it will be released on her own recognizance this afternoon, and then the case plays out, and that will play out in front of a judge, and eventually potentially a federal jury should it make it to a trial.
Okay, all right, Paul. A lot to follow today. We appreciate it. We'll be watching for any updates from you, and we'll get them. We'll refer it. Sorry, Paul. There's a lot going on today. Losing my words, but we will pass it along to everybody.
Yeah.
But I know you're there now. There's this rally for Georgia at about 1 o'clock or so, and her hearing at about 1:30. So thank you for the update.
Yeah, and I just want to stress, if I can, just for a moment, just because we are talking First Amendment, near and dear to the hearts of what we do every day. We could debate kind of what she did. Should journalists have gone into that church? I don't know what the allegations are and the level of, how intricately she was, tipped off about being there, what her mission was in there. But to have journalists arrested at their home before sunrise this morning, in front of families, in front of kids, sitting in jail at the minute, in the custody, it's scary stuff, and I just wanted to convey that and make sure our viewers appreciated kind of what is happening. This is an important one to follow.
Yeah, a lot of fair questions to be asked in all of this, Paul. Thank you, really appreciate it. We'll talk soon. All right, let's bring in Amber really quickly here as we wrap the show. Amber, just a whirlwind of headlines here.
Yeah.
Just to recap, I know we're going to be starting the next hour, but just really quickly, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah is gone. He's out from the Vikings now. General manager has been let go. So we will talk a little bit more about that next hour. And then there were several other developing headlines here as well.
Yeah, right now I'm still watching this protest outside of a Target store in Dinkytown. This is a live look there right now. This has been going on for about almost an hour and a half at this point. It started around 11:30. This is coming on the same day, as we know, as they're calling for a general strike nationwide, not just in Minnesota, not just in Minneapolis, but people protesting immigration enforcement in Minnesota and other places by not shopping today, not eating out, basically not spending money in an effort to force a sort of economic blackout. We saw something similar, the exact same thing here really, last week Friday, as well as a large strike happening downtown, a march and rally through downtown Minneapolis today. We saw that as well last week Friday. So that rally today expected to start around 2 o'clock. In addition to this rally outside of Target, I've seen people protesting outside of the Whipple Federal Building again this morning, Amy. It really has been quite a busy morning. And then while I've got about a minute left here, while I'm watching all of this, I'm also watching the Senate right now because at the Senate they have been debating funding bills in hopes of avoiding a shutdown. That's not going to happen. The shutdown will still happen partially tonight because the House is not meeting today to vote on these funding bills, which means they just simply can't get it through all of Congress and to President Trump's desk to avoid a partial government shutdown. But Democrats and the Trump administration did strike a deal on DHS and ICE funding here. That was the sticking point, obviously, again, amid all of the immigration enforcement and what we've seen happen here in Minnesota.
Okay, and then happening now at First Ave is a concert. The money going to benefit the families of Alex Preddy and Renee Good. And did we find out there was a special guest that they had been sort of teasing? Did we find out who?
I have not heard yet.
Okay.
I'm wondering if we're going to check in with Corin here on the other side of the break, and maybe he has a tip. Yeah, we've heard some big name rumors, but
I mean,
don't know
people are
for sure.
throwing out a lot of big names.
Yes.
Springsteen, but
yes.
Who knows, right? All right, more All Day Live. A lot of live events we're covering today. Thanks for being with us. We'll be right back after this. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to All Day Live as we head into a second hour of live coverage here, events that are happening locally, as well as Amber's got her eye on some things happening nationally as well that could have a big impact on folks. So we have a lot to cover here in the next hour. We want to go through some of the headlines that we are following right now. We know that this came in about just over an hour ago. The Vikings have fired general manager Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. Pretty stunning news here. The Vikings, of course, we know did not make the playoffs this season, had a winning record, tough division. Sam Darnold is having a lot of success. He's playing in the Super Bowl next week. The Vikings chose to stay with J.J. McCarthy, as we all know. They let Darnold go. Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, hired in 2022, was about to enter his fourth season with the team. Sports director Jim Rich saying that he just signed an extension. So now we know that Rob Brzezinski will take over operations through the NFL draft, and then after the draft, the team is going to start to search for a new general manager. We have a Vikings statement. Dawn Mitchell is going to join me here at 1:30 to discuss it a little bit further, but I can just read you a part of this here as I hang on, let me pull this up. Following our annual end-of-season organizational meetings over the last several weeks, and after careful consideration, we have decided it is in the best interest of the team to move forward with new leadership of our football operations. Decisions are never easy. We're grateful for Kwesi's contributions and commitment to the organization over the past 4 years and wish him and his family the best in the future. So after the draft, we intend to conduct a thorough search to identify our next GM. Building a team that can contend for championship drives us every day. We look forward to bringing our fans the success they so deserve. That's from the Vikings. Also, we're going to get to some big Twins front office changes as well here in just a little bit. But Don will join me in about 30 minutes to talk a little bit more about this. We want to get to what has become just a flurry of developing news and really big headlines, particularly as it relates to the ICE enforcement operations here in Minnesota. One of the bigger pieces of news that came out this morning is the Department of Justice has announced that they will open a civil rights investigation into the death of Alex Preddy. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche confirmed that today, and we know that after the killing of Renee Good, the DOJ decided not to open a civil rights investigation. Blanche was asked about that, also whether he would release any body cam footage, the names of the agents involved in Preddy's shooting. Let's listen to what he had to say.
For transparency, would you commit to releasing the body cam video from federal officers that was involved in that shooting and their names at a point when the investigation can allow that? Will you make that public? And I did not hear clarity on whether Renee Good's case is also in the civil rights realm.
I'm not committing to anything with respect to that investigation that would be completely unfair to the investigation itself for me to stand here and commit to something for any reason. It depends. It depends on what happens with the investigation, and that's a decision that was made by the folks that are working the investigation. As it relates to Ms. Good, I don't, like I said before, there's investigations that happen all the time with respect to shootings like what happened last Saturday, and cases are handled differently by this department depending on the circumstances.
And one more piece of information we learned today, that the FBI will lead that federal probe into Alex Preddy's death. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem telling Fox News last night about this shift in who was going to handle the investigation. Earlier this week, her department said that Homeland Security, would be looking into his death. Now it is moving to the FBI. Right, this is a story we were just talking to our Paul Bloom about a short time ago. We know that former CNN news anchor and local independent journalist Georgia Fort are in custody right now in connection with an anti-ICE protest at a St. Paul church a couple of weeks ago. You may remember the video of demonstrators going inside that church during a service. They say they were protesting a pastor who they believe works in the St. Paul Immigration Enforcement Office. City's Church is that church. They denounced the protests, called out the journalists who covered it, saying there isn't a press pass for disrupting people trying to worship. A federal magistrate judge actually has previously, so a local judge, rejected the Justice Department's initial attempt to bring charges against Lemon and Fort. Despite that, though, Lemon was taken into custody this morning at the direction of Attorney General Pam Bondi, and so was Georgia Fort. She posted on X, "At my direction early this morning, federal agents arrested Don Lemon, Traherne Jean Cruz, Georgia Fort, and Jamel Lydell Lundy in connection with a coordinated attack on City's Church in St. Paul." Now, officials have not immediately disclosed what legal authority was used, what charges, if any, are being pursued. Don Lemon's attorney put out this statement on Facebook this morning. Don's been a journalist for 30 years. His constitutionally protected work in Minneapolis was no different than what he has always done. And the attorney goes on to say the First Amendment exists to protect journalists whose role it is to shine light on the truth and hold those in power accountable. And Georgia Fort actually went live on Facebook just before she was taken into custody this morning. Take a look.
You guys, I wanted to alert the public that agents are at my door right now. They're saying that they were able to go before a grand jury sometime, I guess, in the last 24 hours. And that they have a warrant for my arrest. I've talked to my attorney, and I'm being advised to go with them, I guess, down to Whipple. And my children are here. They're impacted by this. This is all stemming from the fact that I filmed a protest as a member of the media. We are supposed to have our constitutional right of the freedom to film, to be a member of the press. I don't feel like I have my First Amendment right as a member of the press because now federal agents are at my door arresting me for filming the church protest a few weeks ago.
And then also it was about an hour or so ago that Georgia Fort's family and some other leaders from the journalism community held a press conference. Here's some of what they had to say.
Georgia Fort is my mom, and we are here to call for her immediate release. My mom has been a documenter and a member of the press for as long as I can remember being alive, for 17 years. My mom is being arrested for documenting what happened at City Church And this is wrong. This goes against her First Amendment right as a journalist, and it's being challenged today. She is not a protester. She is not an activist. She is a mom working to provide for her children through the only way she knows how. Documenting and sharing stories of the community and truth of what's happening here every day in our state. This moment of history just doesn't affect me. It also affects my little sisters who had to wake up and comprehend at the ages of 7 and 8 why their mom had to be arrested today. My 7 and 8-year-old sister woke up today without a mom. My father woke up today without his wife. I'm demanding that my mom gets released. The separation of families will never be right. Thank you.
We are under attack. We are being targeted, and it's not just individuals. Our democracy is under attack. Our Constitution is under attack. This is not a joke. This is not a drill. And I want for everybody that's watching across the nation to know that you are next. Minnesota is holding the line, and we can't hold it by ourselves. This is not a black people or white people or religion or age or any of these things. We are fighting for human rights. We are fighting for our humanity and our democracy, and nobody fought harder for that than Georgia. She is the ultimate professional. She is so intentional, but we saw after Alex was killed on Saturday, journalists were being tear gassed. King Demetrius, who's going to speak to you, has a boot on right now. They are not paying attention to passes, badges, and they're not paying attention to our democracy and our Constitution. And I want to tell y'all, we have to stand for something or fall for anything.
Now, there is a Free Georgia rally, we understand, that's happening perhaps right now outside the federal courthouse in Minneapolis, and Georgia Fort's hearing is scheduled for today at about 1:30, and that is coming up. Our Paul Bloom is there, and we'll be following that for us as well. Also happening right now, we know that at about 2 o'clock today, there are some things that are planned in Minneapolis, similar to last Friday, and one of the pieces of that puzzle is happening at iconic music venue First Ave. They're hosting right now, as we speak, what they're calling a concert of solidarity and resistance. Some of the performers we know of. There were rumors of a surprise guest that they were teasing. Our Corn Hoggard is there right now, has been out there, and we understand no tickets left, so don't try to head out there or anything. Sold out, but Corn is there. Tell us, this is earlier, this is some of the video that our Bill Keller got a little bit earlier today. Folks standing in line, if you saw him this morning in the 8 o'clock hour, he actually had someone, the first gentleman in line, talk to him, and he was there very, very bright and early in his general admission, but he wanted to get that first spot. Corin is there. Corin, tell us a little bit about, we're not allowed inside, it's up to the artist, but tell us what you've been able to gather there today.
Yeah, Amy, you mentioned there are no tickets, but and we're like an hour and 10 minutes into this show right now. It's 2 hours long, 50 minutes left right now. And let me count. 20 people still waiting, hoping that they can get in, or at the very least, join Tom Morello maybe as he joins the march that it's supposed to start at 2 o'clock, not far from here. But yeah, we know, I know Rise Against has played quite a bit. They did a Neil Young cover, Keep On Rockin' in the Free World, and paid a lot of tribute to, the folks in Minnesota. I know that a couple other performers played, but, the real kind of star of the show may be that very special guest, and a lot of speculation about who it is, and I do not have any kind of inside information yet. But I will say everybody is assuming it's Bruce Springsteen, since he wrote that Streets of Minneapolis song last weekend and then released it this week. And also because Tom Morello, who organized all of this, is a former member of his E Street Band for a while. So they have a relationship. And so everybody kind of hoping that Bruce Springsteen brings that song here to First Ave in this show. Somebody in there said that he got some intel that Bruce would close the show with that Streets of Minneapolis song. So that's kind of what they're all hoping for.
Wow. Incredible, but again, no tickets available, and it doesn't look like anybody's going to get in. Even those who are in line or may not get in. So don't head out there.
Yeah, it's a venue that has 1,550 as its capacity, so it's not huge. And Tom Morello intentionally made the tickets pretty cheap. They were about $25 plus some fees there, so maybe $32 total. Very cheap to get in. all the proceeds going to Renee Good and Alex Pretty's families. So he wasn't trying to, make a buck here. This is standing in solidarity with the people of Minneapolis who are going to be, part of this march and protesting ICE's activities here in town.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you, because you are out there right now, folks may be heading down there. We know what we saw last Friday, thousands and thousands of people out there in the freezing cold. The temperature, you might be looking at it and saying, well, it looks like we're above zero, but describe to me kind of how you're feeling, how people should be dressing. What are things like out there for you?
Cold. It's a little windy. The sun is out, so that's nice. But I think, unless you're going to be surrounded by a bunch of people who are sharing their warmth, you're going to want to layer up. We were out here standing with the folks who were trying to get in for a couple hours, and my toes got very, very cold. The rest of me is fine, but I layer up pretty well. Wear gloves most of the time when I'm not holding a phone to do a TV live shot.
I know. I feel so guilty right now. I want to just let you go, but I do want to ask you if you've had a chance to chat with anybody in line or before they went in to talk a little bit about why they wanted to come out today.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked to several of them. In fact, we talked to the folks. Let me turn this around for you, and so you can still see that there are actually people still standing in line there. You see them by the big yellow star. They're still trying to get in. And so that's where a bunch of people were congregated for a couple hours, and we talked to several of them. That was what they called the miracle line. They were just hoping somebody would show up who had a spare ticket. And actually, the first couple of people we talked to eventually got in. But yeah, the reason that they're out here is because they said they, want to stand with community. They want to do what they can to help everybody out here and help Alex Pretty's family, help Renee Good's family, help their neighbors. They just felt like it was very important to be part of community out here today and to, join kind of a protest concert.
All right, Corin, you hopefully can hop in a car and get warm for a little bit. Maybe that person can let you in. Thanks. I appreciate you checking in. We'll talk to you a little bit later. All right, take care. And as Corin mentioned, people are hitting the streets again today in response to Operation Metro Surge. Organizers have said they do expect thousands of people again to come out for a march and a rally to protest the immigration crackdown and also support immigrant communities. They say this time around they have about 500 businesses who've signed on to either shut down completely or do something to show solidarity in other ways. Again, last Friday, if you've seen the images, thousands and thousands of people, hundreds of businesses came together marching from the Commons Park to Target Center, ending there with a peaceful rally at Target Center. And so they're hoping for the same kind of turnout today. The difference this time around, it was mostly focused in Minnesota, in Minneapolis last time. Today, though, the same organizations are calling for a national day of action, so another general strike. It's sort of the same as last week, right? Today they're urging people, again, across the country, not to go to school, not to go to work, not to shop. And the goal, they say, is to create an economic blackout in protest of these immigration operations. And we have seen some other businesses in other parts of the U.S. saying they'll be shutting down as well. Amber is going to jump in here right now, and we're going to go through a couple of other things we're looking at.
Yeah, Amy,
do we still have the live? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm following a couple things here developing behind the scenes.
Okay.
First, I want to let you know that protest I've been following at Target. AF, we can take a look at Del 12. It does look like it is clearing out now. Again, this started around 11:30 this morning. It was a sit-in and protest outside of Target. We're expecting several more of these tomorrow afternoon. And then another thing I'm looking at here now, our photographer just got down to the Alex Pretty Memorial. So I have that shot up now. And Amy, this has just grown so much since Alex Pretty was killed over the weekend. So I expect this to be a relatively busy and likely very emotional scene again today as people come out in many different ways to honor Alex Pretty today and March for Immigration Operation changes. And then I also want to just let you know, Dawn Mitchell just called me, and I just learned we are expecting to hear from the Vikings in about 15 minutes. So obviously they're going to be talking about the firing of the general manager. So again, 15 minutes, I need to email somebody and get a Zoom link so I can try to bring that to everybody here on air.
Okay, you work on that, and then we'll see how the rest of the show shakes out here.
You never
Unexpected
know,
news coming in, so thank you for that. Should we take a quick break and
let's check the weather and then take a break?
Okay, let's do that. We'll be right back.
Good afternoon. It is another cold start, but we've seen some sunshine. It's been a sunny few days, but certainly been plenty cold. Temperatures ranging 10 to 20 degrees below average, sub-zeros in the morning, some single digits and low teens in the afternoon. That's a rinse and repeat for today specifically. And then we start to climb out of this tomorrow. High pressure building in. This will scoot through over the next 24 to 36 hours. That will take the Arctic air mass and shift it south and eastward. That will allow the next system roll in. This one's a Clipper system, but overall the pattern changes with this as we get more of a westerly and northwest breeze at many layers of the atmosphere as opposed to pure north. That means our source region is no longer here, way into the Arctic. Our source region of air is out here. Not exactly warm, but it will be warmer overall, especially as we get to the latter part of the weekend. That will also come with a dash of light snow. For your Friday, no snow to speak of, just whatever's on the ground. Sunshine and quite cold. That 11 will feel more like 0 or -2 or -3, depending on overall that breeze. Out of the north, 10 to 15 plus. That will calm later on this evening and overnight. Clear and the last of our frigid overnights and early mornings. Overnight low at -2. We're going for an 18 on our Saturday. Still quite chilly, but far better than where we've been for most of the last couple of weeks. Here's that 7-day forecast. Upper 20s return on Sunday. There will be a dash of light snow, especially Sunday morning. Many areas of the state in western Wisconsin could see 1 to 2 inches of light fluff. Enough time to get that stuff cleared off Sunday evening, Sunday night before Monday morning's commute. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we're back in the 20s, perfectly seasonable before maybe a brief little thaw by Thursday.
Welcome back to All Day Live. We are waiting for a press conference live from the Vikings, who will be talking more about letting General Manager Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah go. He is out with the Minnesota Vikings. That announcement came down, well, we got the news just before this program at noon, and so we'll hear from them. We'll take that when that starts. Before that, though, we want to get to some other headlines here and other interviews. There is understandably a lot of focus on the Twin Cities when it comes to Operation Metro Surge, but the Metro obviously not alone. Other cities like St. Cloud are being impacted. So joining me now is St. Cloud Mayor Jake Anderson. Thanks for taking some time today.
Good afternoon.
What can you tell us about immigration enforcement in your city since this operation started just 2 months ago?
Yeah, we hadn't had any contact with ICE or federal authorities until about 2 weeks ago, going on 3 weeks now, I guess, when a PD officer happened to run into some ICE agents in a PD parking lot and had just a short conversation with them. They were basically asking where they could get gas or a bite to eat. And then subsequently, the following Monday, we did have a rather large event occur where upwards of 60 to 75 federal authorities visited a local mall here to perform some type of operation. And PD was not informed until the operation required crowd control. At that point, there was about 200 or so protesters, employees, et cetera, kind of pushing back on these ICE agents. And so our PD was able to get in between them, sort of diffuse the situation, keep everyone safe. Since then, we've seen sporadic incidents where folks have been picked up by federal authorities, but really nothing like we saw that Monday now, going on 3 weeks ago.
Okay, and a couple of things here. When you said PD came in for kind of crowd control, can you get more specific about what the city and PD are going to be doing? We know some cities have separation ordinances. What does that look like in St. Cloud?
Yeah, in St. Cloud, we've had a community policing agreement since 2005. Our local authorities don't do immigration enforcement. It's not part of our charter. It's not part of the laws that we are in charge of enforcing. It's what the feds do. So partly what we do is, because we don't engage in those, we will provide crowd control if necessary. And in fact, I should back up. It was more traffic control. There had been a backup in traffic is how we were alerted to the event. So we work with them when we had to. We've worked with federal partners in the past. We've worked with the U.S. Marshals Service, FBI, Violent Offender Drug Task Force, all number of agencies throughout the federal government on law enforcement operations. The latest ICE and immigration stuff has been different than in the past, where we're not getting information from them. And so it kind of creates this disconnect or blind spot that we have as a community, and when we're attempting to police our community, knowing what's all going on. So we work with them. We're not a folks define sanctuary city. I at times don't even know what that is, but we do have pretty defined boundaries. If someone gets detained and goes to jail and ICE puts a detainer on them, we hold that person. That's done in one of our 3 county jails. St. Cloud is unique in that we're found in Sherburne, Benton, and Stearns counties.
Right.
So we work with 3 different jail systems. So that's been our past relationship. We don't do immigration enforcement. We will provide crowd control or other measures to keep the public safe, but there's really no collaboration per se in an immigration operation.
Star City Mall, I believe, is where this took place. That day you're talking about the dozens of agents who were there and the kind of clash with folks who were there. I think we spoke with lawmaker Eric Putnam at that time, who was also there, said how he was trying to bring down the temperature, kind of talk with the agents and have conversations there. I'm curious, a lot of Somali-owned businesses there, East African-owned businesses, the folks in that area and others in the community, what are they telling you they're seeing and experiencing?
Yeah, I mean, they're experiencing a lot of fear. They're experiencing a lot of the unknown. A lot of them are carrying different immigration documentation that they may have, passports, even driver's licenses that they have. There's a real sense of fear in the community. A number of them have been stopped just seemingly for the color of their skin or their appearance or their accent, without any rhyme or reason. And I think, to me, that's one of the more disturbing things is, it's one thing if you're targeting immigration and you're looking for specific individuals. If it seems like you're doing blanket sweeps, stopping anybody and checking their immigration status, that seems to me to be a bit problematic and perhaps violates constitutional rights. I'm not a constitutional scholar, so I won't pretend to know all the statutes or the federal regulations, but the 4th Amendment is pretty clear. 14th Amendment are pretty clear in what PD or authorities, rather, law enforcement should be doing. And I think that's still working its way through the courts.
Are you seeing what we're seeing here in the Twin Cities with a lot of the sheltering in place and students not going to school, people not going to work, and you're seeing a reflection of that as well in your community?
Yeah, we've had a number of employers come out and say, hey, we're not able to staff fully because we're not able to fill a shift. We have folks nervous. You know, they have immigration status. They're legally here. They're just nervous. They don't want to get stopped, detained, to have that questioning process. We've seen students not in schools because of the same concern for their parents, vice versa. So we see that, you know, less scale because we're not obviously as densely populated as the metro area, but it's definitely impacting our folks. It's definitely impacting us economically. You know, businesses are operating fewer hours, especially if they're immigrant-owned businesses. And let's face it, those businesses contribute economically. They contribute taxes. They are part of our functioning society. And if kids aren't going to school, if people aren't going to work, that's impacting all of us in some form or another.
It's my understanding that you have had some listening sessions prior to council meetings. Is this something you've done for a while, just started because of all of this, or how has that been going?
Yeah, so I have been doing them before. Usually it would be someone to talk about their utility bill, issue they're having with their neighbor, complain about a park, any number of things. Usually I get one or two people. This past Monday, there was about 200 people. So the very first thing I did is ask who's here not regarding federal operations, ICE, whatever. It was nobody. And so I just spent 45 minutes listening to people. A majority of the people there were very opposed to the federal authorities being in St. Cloud doing what they're doing right now. There was a small percentage that were very supportive of it. So that's kind of that divide you see in a community. But I will say, at one point I asked two things of folks. First of all, if they had a complaint, what would you do if you were in my position? A lot of people said really they didn't have any idea, or they would tell me I should talk to Immigration and Customs Enforcement. I said, I'm always willing to talk. I just need to find out who that is I would need to speak to. And then secondly, they all agreed that we do want dangerous criminals off our streets. So if there's folks here illegally that are criminals, the so-called worst of the worst, it is nearly unanimous and universal that that's who folks want off the streets. I did hear a number of stories, though, from folks that had been stopped or felt the need to carry a passport or carry other documentation that expressed real fear. And that's really what I sense right now is a frustration and a fear. And of course, once you have enough fear build up in the community, you begin to see a lot more anger, especially when folks aren't able to do anything. And unfortunately, especially those of us at the local level, our hands are pretty tied, right? We have limited authority. I can't dictate to the federal authorities what they're doing or how they're doing their jobs. I can make suggestions and I can, I guess, stand on a soapbox. But at the end of the day, what I'm trying to do is keep our community safe, keep it as calm as it can in sort of these perilous times.
All right, Mayor Anderson, thanks for taking some time today, giving us a little glimpse into what's happening in St. Cloud right now. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, take care. All right, we're going to bring Amber back in as we await some sort of a press conference or availability from the Minnesota Vikings, right?
Yeah, I'm going to make this real quick, Amy, because I want to get a break in here before we go there. Press conference expected to start at 1:30. We're going to be hearing from Vikings owner and president Mark Wilf. Again, 1:30, about 2 minutes away. As I take us to break, a live look at the memorial for Alex Preddy. Amy, we're back in 2 minutes, expecting to hear from the Vikings. Breaking news, general manager fired less than 2 hours ago. We'll be back.
And welcome back to All Day Live. 1:30 is the time. We are waiting for a press conference, and that's a big one, everybody. Some breaking news coming in just before the noon hour here that the Minnesota Vikings have fired their general manager, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. We are expecting to hear from Vikings owner and president Mark Wilf any moment now. That's expected to happen at 1:30, so Amber's keeping an eye on that for us. Talk to the media, take some questions when we talk to our sports director Jim Rich here at the top of the hour, top of the noon hour. He was reminding us that the Vikings had just signed an extension with Adolfo-Mensah, and so a lot of things have happened since then, obviously, and a lot of things that can happen in a season. A lot of injuries. You have a quarterback who was let go, who is now going to be in the Super Bowl next week, in addition to questions around drafting capabilities, that kind of thing. So all of those things coming together, but the big news today is that Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah is out as general manager. Also, while we wait for that as well, should also mention that the Twins had a big shakeup in their front office as well today. So 2 weeks before pitchers and catchers report to spring training, the Twins have let go Derek Falvey. They say it was a mutual agreement to part ways. Falvey said that the ownership has been changing hands. There's been this transition over the past few weeks, and he felt that this was the time to go. So a lot of changes within that front office. Some minority owners. We have Tom Pohlad instead of Joe Pohlad running the show. General manager Jeremy Soule is going to take over interim until they can find somebody else. So there's a lot going on in the world of professional sports today. We'll keep our eyes on that and bring that to you. Amber, do we have it's a virtual. It's not even a shot at the at TCO. So what we have is sometimes what they'll do is a virtual press conference, and this often will happen when things are happening last second and they can't get everybody in the media can't get to a single spot quickly, is that they'll do it virtually, and that is what we are waiting for. So there's really nothing. Oh, let's go. All right, let's take you to the Vikings presser.
On behalf of our ownership, I want to express our appreciation for Kwesi and for the time and effort he put into this role. These are never easy decisions because you know you're impacting a person and a family and someone we care about. We understand there'll be questions on the timing and why now. I think you know how we want to operate as owners. We want to avoid knee-jerk reactions, be pragmatic, thoughtful, methodical in making these decisions. And as we do each year, we held our end of the season organizational meetings over a couple of weeks and then spent this past week as an ownership group reviewing, discussing, and how best to move forward. This is a critical offseason. Ultimately, we felt the change was necessary in football operations and did not feel comfortable going forward into this offseason with the current leadership. It's not about any one decision or move. We looked at the situation cumulatively. We just didn't feel confident going through the entirety of the offseason, an additional draft, and free agency with this structure. We have an urgency to create a winning football team and establish sustainable success for our fans. At the same time, we balance that urgency with all decisions thoroughly and methodically. Winning football, that's what drives all our decision making, and it is the core of all our efforts every single day. We have incredible fans. They deserve a winning team and a team that contend deep into the playoffs and win championships. As we said in our announcement, Rob Brzezinski will lead our football operations in the interim through the draft and will rely heavily on Kevin, the coaching staff, the talent evaluators we have on this personnel side. We have an excellent, strong organization. Rob brings tremendous credibility and experience, understands our roster, and has an innate ability to build consensus with coaches and personnel. In terms of the long term, certainly we will have conversations and begin laying the groundwork for a process now. But from a practical perspective of where we are in the football cycle, and in order to give ourselves the best outcome, we expect to conduct a thorough search to identify our next general manager after the draft. And with that, I'll open it up to questions.
Again, please add your names in the chat. We'll start with Matt, and then we'll go Kevin.
Hey, Mark, you mentioned just not being comfortable with the situation going forward with this structure. What was it specifically that you were not comfortable with in terms of Kwesi leading this offseason?
Well, it wasn't about any one decision, as I said. It was looking at the entirety of the last few years and not being comfortable moving forward. I think this is a long-term organizational decision, and we as ownership felt for our best path going forward that this was the move to make. And this is a critical offseason, as I said, and we felt the move was necessary at this time.
Yeah, Mark, I think definitely understand the thorough nature of it. I think fans and some of us might wonder why, if the team was eliminated in the playoffs when it was this year, why that whole process didn't start earlier and why it took until now to do that.
Well, like I said, the most important thing was getting this decision right. And like I said, we like to be methodical about all this. And we had our season-long, season-ending meetings and really took a deep dive look at not just any one thing, but over the past few years. And so we wanted to make sure we got the decision right. We talked to all the stakeholders, all the people involved in our football operations, and we really came to this decision in a methodical way. And that's the way we went about it, because this is about our long-term success. We have a strong basis and foundation here in this organization, and we want to make sure what positions us going forward to maximize our ability to strive and compete.
All right, Emily, go ahead.
Mark, will there be any further personnel moves on that operations side, just kind of given Kwesi and his team? And
yeah, no, there'll be no further moves on that front. And like I said, we have tremendous confidence in Coach O'Connell, our coaching staff, and our entire football operations and scouting and evaluation team. So from all that perspective, no.
All right, let's go with Don, Ben, and Alec.
Not just one thing, but if I could ask specifically to the quarterback situation and the optics, obviously with Sam Darnold in the Super Bowl, how much did that whole situation of your quarterback room in its entirety weigh in this decision as multiple aspects of you making this change?
I'll just say it again. It really, it's not necessarily a fair thing to talk about any one decision, and that's the way we approach it. It's a body of work. It's a cumulative set of decisions. It's 4 years of where we've been. And we as ownership, and I know our fans feel it, and our entire organization feels, we need to get to a better place. And this is strictly an ownership and organizational decision that we feel this is the best path going forward. It's not about one player, one decision, one draft pick. It's about organizationally what we can do the best for our organization and our fans.
Mark, you make the decision last May to give Kwesi the extension. When you talk about the entirety of the last 4 years, what specifically changed from the decision to give him an extension last May to fire him this week?
Well, it's always a cumulative decision, but again, it's just having another season of information here, and we just did not feel like going into another off season with this structure was the best decision. So that's how it came about.
Hey, Mark. Moving forward in the short term and long term, will Kevin report directly to you guys or to the general manager in place?
Well, like I said, Rob will be the point person on all the football operations. Of course, ownership, we're maintaining the structure we have. The personnel decisions are led by the personnel in the operations department with coaches' significant input. But we, of course, as ownership are certainly engaged, and we're in constant communication with Rob, Coach, and other members of our staff. So that's the way we're going about it.
All right, we'll turn to Dave, followed by Chip and Mark.
Mark, separate from decision-making, I'm just wondering, considering Kwesi had a kind of an atypical background in the NFL, if there's an element of this that was just a fit as far as how he works with and other more traditional football people work kind of on the whole operation.
Well, again, we're looking at the totality of it. Kwesi's a forward thinker. great respect for him as his person and his family, and it's a difficult day here, but going forward, it was really about a fit situation and the best path going forward. So that's the way we came about it. Like I said, we have strong people in the organization, all of them football-oriented, many data-oriented, analytics-oriented. We have a lot of tremendous talent in this building, and I'm confident and optimistic as my brother, our ownership, we're all very confident moving forward and optimistic that we have a nucleus here we can build off of with the team we have, the players we have, and to move us forward in a positive direction. This was the best way to do it.
Mark, you talked about having your year-end season review with everybody, including the football department. How much did you find that there was tension between the front office and the football staff, coaching staff, and maybe not being on the same page?
Well, there's all kinds of dynamics that go on in a building, but I will tell you that there's a lot of respect and personal appreciation, and the relationship's all good. This is about strictly from a professional standpoint, what will give our football team and our fans the best chance to win Super Bowls. And we wanted to go in a different direction in terms of how we move forward. That's strictly what this is about, strictly a business decision. We have a lot of respect for every person in this building, including Kwesi and his family. And so this was about what's best to move us forward as an organization.
Yeah, Mark, it's this is similar to kind of along the lines of what Dave was talking about. You know, when Kwesi was hired, it was kind of an outside the box. It was hailed as kind of a different hire outside the box. Wondering what, you know, I'm sure every time you make as you go along, you learn things and that you use for the next step. What did you learn from this hire that you're going to use to make the next hire?
Well, you know, we're going to be thorough in the hiring process going forward. And so that means we're going to self-scout how we've done it in the past, make sure we hear from every aspect of how to go about picking our next GM. And we're going to learn from it, and we're going to make sure we're thorough. And that's partly why we need to get to work now, Combine coming up, free agency, draft. And so we want to make sure that we have full focus on that, and we expressed that to the entire staff as recently as this morning to make sure we're focused on that. At the same time, we're going to begin to set up for that process right after the draft to make sure we have the right people. And yes, there's always learnings in any business when you hire, when things don't work out, and we're going to lean on that experience to make it work going forward.
All right, let's go with Kevin, and then Ben and Dave.
Yeah, Mark, do you think Rob Brzezinski is a candidate for the general manager job? And thinking larger, do you think you'll keep the same basic structure in terms of splitting of duties and decision-making as you've sort of traditionally had?
I would tell you most likely yes, but we're not going to close the door on anything at this point. And so, you know, Rob is someone with a tremendous amount of experience. He's been over a quarter century in this league. We have a lot of confidence in him. And we also have a lot of confidence in our entire football operations. All the people that work in our staff are high-level professionals, top evaluators with a lot of experience. So it's going to be an open process. We're not going to shut any doors at this point. And I can tell you the kind of organization and the kind of building we have here, I know it's going to be a highly desirable situation for someone to come into and lead us going forward.
When you said most likely yes, are you referring to Rob being a candidate or to the same structure that you're going to have?
I think open to both, and like I said, open to anything. But I would tell you, we do lean toward the fact to have a traditional role where the GM is the decision maker with extremely heavy input from the head coach and the coaching staff. So we like that structure. That's how we're going to approach it going forward. And again, if something comes up and we want to be nimble as an ownership, like I say, we always view ourselves as stewards of a franchise that a lot of people care about, and especially to our fans. We owe it to them and we owe it to ourselves. We're all accountable here. Ownership, coaches, personnel, the entire organization to deliver a winner and championships, and that's how we're going to go at this every single day.
Mark, I know you said it wasn't about one particular move, but relative to the level of alignment on the quarterback decision, did you feel like there was a lack of alignment last year at all, or were you concerned about the possibility of further quarterback decisions being difficult to make if Kwesi was still here?
You know, without getting into the particulars of any decision, I think all of us in this building have accountability on every decision that's made here. So, like I said before, and I'll circle back to it, It's not about any single one decision. You know, we have a lot of decisions to make every single day, and the quarterback decision is one of the most important that's made. But this is about a totality of work and what organization allows us to keep moving forward and making proper decisions going forward. So everyone has accountability in this building for every decision that's made, and that's how we approach it. Everything is done collaboratively, and that's how we want it to happen, with full input from all the experience here. And when the decision is made, everyone is held accountable to it.
Mark, in your mind, what does make this such a critical off season?
Well, there's a lot of things going on, but certainly we're positioned to have a significant number of draft picks. We do have a nucleus of players that is extremely solid here. And so, you know, as we pivot to next season, of course, every offseason is critical, but we're excited here about the possibilities with the draft capital we now have, and taking a hard look at free agency and where we can supplement given the parameters in the league. So we're excited about it, but we have to get it right. We need young players that we can build on for the future and keep this thing moving forward. We've had some success, but certainly we're disappointed where we were this past season, and we know our fans want a lot more, and we certainly want a lot more.
All right, much more to come from Vikings on this firing of Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. We're going to take a quick break, and as we go to break, we want to take you live to downtown Minneapolis, a live look here, checking in with our team on the ground when we come back, as thousands of people, again, are expected to turn out for an anti-ICE protest and rally in support of immigrant communities here. And so also, Bruce Springsteen, according to several sources, is who showed up at First Ave for that charitable concert. We'll have much more on all of that when All Day returns. And welcome back to All Day Live. We want to take you back to Minneapolis, where at this moment there are people gathering. Not sure yet how many will gather. We know that a week ago we saw thousands upon thousands of people who came out to protest anti-ICE. There was anti-ICE protests and also in support of immigrant communities and businesses. So we want to take you out there live right now. Our Mike Manzoni is covering this for us today. So Mike, give us a sense of what you're seeing out there.
We just got here a few minutes ago. Several hundred people now anyway, maybe even more than 1,000 at this point, and more are continuing to come as we speak. Now the march is set to start, or the rally anyway is set to start around 2 o'clock. followed by a march, very similar to what we saw in downtown Minneapolis a week ago today. That was, of course, before Alex Preddy was shot and killed that Saturday morning, so the day after. And they wanted to, these protesters want to have another demonstration, and that is what they're doing now. They've come with signs, they have bullhorns, they have loudspeakers set up on a flatbed off to the side over there. We're outside a government center now. This is part of a national shutdown day, they're calling it. They're calling for no work, no school, and they're also calling for no shopping. Many businesses standing in solidarity with the protesters shutting down. We just came from a demonstration, a smaller demonstration over in Dinkytown outside the Target there. Many protesters upset that Target is not following suit and shutting down, so they were protesting there. They wanted them to join in on this. We will continue to stay out here and monitor conditions. We'll be there as they start marching. We'll follow them and have more updates for you throughout the afternoon. Back to you guys.
All right, thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. We'll continue to check in here throughout the afternoon. Let's go through a couple of more headlines here. And Amber, if you have a chance to jump in, there's been so much that has transpired since about 11 o'clock even this morning. It's a lot to try to digest and a lot of really important news as well. So I wanted to go through a couple of those headlines with you, if I could. And Amber, you just let me know what else we might have going on. And I just wrote down a bunch of things, and of course I can't find it right now. Oh, some notes that I was,
can I show people a couple things that I'm watching?
Please, you do that while I find my notes.
So first, and if we can keep the gnats down on Dell 14, I want to take people there. But this is also happening in downtown Minneapolis right now. I have a lower third there, more towards the bottom of this block. But this is a rally outside of the federal courthouse in downtown Minneapolis in support of independent journalist based here in Minnesota, Georgia Fort. As we've been reporting all day, she was arrested this morning from her house. She actually went live on a Facebook video as federal agents were knocking on her door, waking up her family to arrest her. And it comes just a matter of hours after former CNN anchor Don Lemon, now also an independent journalist, was arrested last night. Both of them were at the St. Paul church protest 2 weeks ago now, I believe, Amy, about?
Just under 2 weeks, yeah.
Just under 2 weeks. So we've also seen a couple of other people, notable name here, arrested in relation to this protest at that church. Nakima Levy-Armstrong, a very well-known local activist, charged here. They initially did try to charge both Georgia Fort and Don Lemon in that initial round of charges, but a judge denied that effort. So they turned around and they went to a grand jury, and now here we are today. I have seen, I cannot recall his name, but there is another well-known activist who was arrested shortly after Nakima Levy-Armstrong was arrested, Amy, and I did see him out here speaking at the mic maybe 3-4 minutes ago. Okay. He's a really tall guy. He's at a lot of these events, and I'm so sorry, I cannot remember.
Yeah, it's William. I think I could look it up. I didn't want to misspeak.
Yeah,
okay.
I know. Me too.
Okay.
So, like I said, a number of people out here, lots of support, of course, for the First Amendment. People are very concerned about the right to a free press here. Don Lemon and Georgia Fort, both they're covering the protest and arrested for the government saying their involvement in the protest.
Yeah, a lot of different layers to this. Our Paul Bloom is covering this for us today, and he'll try to slow it down and parse it out, because we do have the issue of journalists who are there covering the news and their First Amendment rights. Also, we have, what is alleged of those demonstrators, that they were infringing upon the rights of the worshipers to worship freely in that space. And so there are several different issues at play here that we have to just slow down and look at the law and look at what has happened. But this is in response to that. And then
we should also mention Georgia Fort is actively in court as we speak.
Right.
So she was set to appear in federal court again there downtown Minneapolis starting at 1:30. Like you mentioned, Paul Bloom's in there. He was inside the courtroom providing updates. I haven't seen much at this point.
Okay. Let me run through a couple of really quick headlines here, just really in a bullet point what we're following today, because there's so much and so much has happened. We talked about the anti-ICE protests and rally in support of immigrant communities. We showed you some of that that's happening at Government Center. Our Mike Manzoni is covering that. Also, in conjunction with that, there's a charitable concert at First Ave that's, I believe, still happening right now, started at about noon. Bruce Springsteen is our understanding, is the surprise guest that they've been teasing. According to the Pioneer Press, that is who is here. Of course, came out with the song that he released, Streets of Minneapolis, earlier, and so sounds like he may be here. Don't try to go down there. There's no tickets, and there's no way to get. It's a very small venue, so just be aware of that. Department of Justice is going to open up a civil rights case in Alex Preddy's death, and if you remember, they did not do that in the shooting death of Renee Good. So that is a difference here that we're taking a look at. The Department of Justice opening that civil rights case for Preddy's death. The FBI also taking over now, not Homeland Security any longer. This big sports news, you may have seen it here in our air. Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah fired as Vikings general manager. We just heard from Mark Wilf, owner and president, a short time ago. And the Twins have parted ways with their president of baseball operations, Derek Falvey. Many people know his face out there. He's been the face of the Twins now for many years. Just weeks before spring training starts, pitchers and catchers report in a couple of weeks. A mutual decision, according to the club. So. Partial government shutdown at the federal level. Luigi Mangione, charged with killing United Health CEO Brian Thompson, will not face the death penalty, and much, much more. You can find pretty much, I think, all of it on our website right now if you head on over there. So a lot to cover today. Thanks for bearing with us, everybody.
Back to the Preddy Memorial in South Minneapolis right now. Our photojournalist Rod out there braving the cold for us. You can see quite a few people out there, Amy. So people gathering downtown Minneapolis, South Minneapolis. We've seen protests, like you mentioned, in Dinkytown today, outside the courthouse. It really is just a whirlwind of headlines this afternoon. I want to take people also back to the downtown protest right now, march rally. The march expected to get underway at approximately 2 p.m. today. This is kind of a sequel, if you will, to the march and protest last week, Friday, that went through downtown, and we saw a very, very large showing last week. So
seen different numbers of how many people, but we know there were thousands upon thousands of people. A peaceful march from Commons Park to Target Center, ending with that rally there. Hundreds of businesses also taking part. And today calling for a nationwide day of action. So not just here in the Twin Cities, but everywhere else in the country.
All right, 30 seconds, Amy.
Let's
like you
just
mentioned, national protest. People will also see today. I saw protests in North Carolina, New Jersey, a couple other places as well. So you're going to be seeing this all over.
We'll continue to cover this throughout the day on our website. Of course, our newscasts tonight as well. So thanks everybody
streaming
for
coverage as well. Fox9.com.
Thank you.
Fox Local. We're going to keep going right here at 2 o'clock. So if you want to keep watching this, flip over to our stream.